Okay, let's talk about graft count, its importance, and how you can kind of estimate graft count and things you should know when you're going out getting your consultations and why graft counts could be different. I do know for a fact that graft counts in our office are way different than what you'll see out in the community. They are higher, and that's because we're trying to achieve a much more natural result. We're trying to cover more area, and our team has no limitations on the number of grafts we can do. We hold the world record at 10,000 grafts, so we can actually do it. We're not limited to 2,500 to 3,000 grafts, which will be the normal upper limit of what you'll hear in the community. Okay, so let's talk about grafts. Grafts is probably the most important thing to achieve the results you want. Grafts allow you to cover more area. Grafts allow you to get more density. And grafts allow you to get more naturality. A lot of people don't think about naturality and graft count. Take the hairline, for example. Grafts are not all created equal. You have grafts with one hair to them, you have grafts with 2 hairs, you have grafts with 3 hairs to them. If you create a hairline out of grafts that have 2 hairs, that hairline is going to seem just a little bit doll's hair-like. It's going to seem a little coarse. But if you actually go get single hairs to create that hairline, now you actually put these hairs a little bit more separated. They're not so pluggy. But you need twice as number of grafts to get the same number of hairs, but you get a much more natural result. Now let's say you'll get grafts that have fine single hairs, not thick single hairs, because there is a difference. Well, you can actually use 4 times the number of grafts to create a really, really nicely feathered hairline than a hairline created with 2 hair grafts. Think of it like this: a printer, a 150 DPI printer, a 300 DPI printer, and a 1200 DPI printer. Well, those dots, those small dots, give you a much better natural appearance. So when you're going from 150 DPI to 1200 DPI, that's like 9 times the number of dots more. You're getting a much more natural result. And this is really important for the hairline, but it's not important everywhere. So you can actually use thicker grafts in the crown, in the mid-scalp. And that's what you should do. You should actually be dropping the graft count when you get to the crown. You should be able to do the entire crown with a lot less grafts than 1 centimeter of the hairline. So you're looking at grafts, you have to do this. Think about the area you're covering, just by your palm size, and look at the area that it has to come out of. We can take about 10% of the hairs out of this area. So if we have about a 1 centimeter or like a 1 inch area, we're going to need about 10 of those on the sides to give us enough grafts to cover that one spot. The grafts themselves can be dependent on your hair quality, right, or your hair thickness. They can be thin hairs, they can be thick hairs. Thicker hairs require less grafts, but they're not ideal for the front hairline. The hairs can be straight, or they can be curly. Curly hairs cover more area. They don't need as much. So African Americans actually need less grafts than people with straight hair do to cover the same amount of area. The hair color also makes a difference. And the skin color. If you have dark hair and light skin, you'll know that it's really easy to see through your hairs down to your skin. Like, look right here on me. I actually have quite a bit of hair. But because my hair is dark and my skin is light, it looks like I have a little divot here. And that's because we have a high contrast situation. I would actually need to put more grafts in here to correct that. Now, the question is, do I want to do that? And the procedure is the right question, but like, as you can see, the color contrast can also create the need for more grafts. Now, what I will tell you, there is a sequence to the day that when you're doing your procedure, it takes a certain amount of time. Every single hair has 4 steps to it: extraction, evaluation, incision, and placement. So doing 3,000 grafts in a day actually takes a lot of work. But what if you need 6,000 grafts? Well, you can never do 2 procedures in a day in that situation. That's one thing we determine in our office. We will never do more than 1 procedure in a day. And if we need to do a lot of grafts, we won't do more than one procedure every other day. We'll actually move the haircut and the hairline design to the night before, but we will still do the right number of grafts during a procedure. So it won't be uncommon for us to recommend 4,000, 5,000, 6,000, and 10,000 grafts when it's appropriate. We're not limited to 2,500 to 3,000 grafts like most of the clinics. And what we're trying to do is get more coverage, get more density, and get more naturality. And naturality is something we just don't compromise on here, and we develop the techniques to be able to do more grafts for that reason. So when you come in, I'll help you understand your graft count, and you have to give me a little leeway that graft count is going to be significantly higher than some of our colleagues in town. But I will show you how our colleagues reach their graft count, and I'll tell you the difference you'll get between going with that route and going with higher graft count, resulting in more naturality.